All right, back in the basement again today to talk about the Snode AD80s, adjustable dumbbell, 80 pounds? At least I hope that's what it stands for. If not, you guys are missing a great marketing opportunity, and that name just happened to work out. But I want to talk about these in general, my first impressions of them, and compare them to the other two main competitors in this segment, which are both the Nuobells and the Trulap dumbbells, which I have dedicated videos on. I will link those in the description box below. But shortly after uploading my Trulap video, Snode reached out to me and they said, hey, would you like to try our adjustable dumbbells? And I said, hey, I would, mostly because a lot of you mentioned or asked what I thought of them. So this was a perfect opportunity. They also reached out to Home Gym Hacks and Reviews, who, not coincidentally enough, also uploaded a Trulap dumbbell video, and shortly after had the Snodes come in. I will link his video in the description box below because I will mention it in this video, and it's very well done and put together. So as far as these go, I'm not going to get too much into the context of adjustable dumbbells, the market. If you're looking at this, more than likely it's because you're also considering the other brands that I just mentioned, and I just want to tell you how these dumbbells compare to the others. Now, unfortunately, a little bit of a spoiler alert in advance, all three of these dumbbells are good, none are great, and none stick out more than the other, depending on what you're looking for. So that's really it's going to come down to. None of these are perfect. They all offer some benefits, and they also have their own drawbacks. Now, when I talk about this segment, what I'm talking about are adjustable dumbbells that come in a cradle style with some sort of handle-ish adjustment. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. That adjust up to a round 80 pounds, are made of mostly metal, and have a price point of right around $800 delivered. So all three of those competitors that I've mentioned, including the Snodes, are going to fit that bill. Now, when it comes to these, let me talk about what I like the most about these. And it really comes down to the build quality and the convenience of them. Now, all of these dumbbells are somewhat convenient. However, this extends to the unboxing experience with these Snodes. I've chronicled in the Trulap and the Nuobell, a lot of times when I get stuff in, especially stuff that's sent from overseas like these are, and then are rerouted through places like Canada, a lot of times they get beat up along the way, and the packaging always shows that. So the boxes that came in weren't in the best of shape necessarily, but what's important on what's in the inside, just like my mama told me when I was growing up. And these, my friends, come very nicely packaged on the inside, unlike some of the other ones that I've reviewed. So I've kind of chronicled how the other dumbbells I've used have that brittle, hard styrofoam that tends to not only break very easily, which causes a lot of mess to clean up, but the dumbbells are heavy enough where they sink in, which makes them hard to access, which means you have to rip apart those boxes even further. And it's just not a very fun process for cleanup. You know, you get these things in, you're excited. Luckily enough, they're very easy to build, which I'll touch upon, but then you have to take the time to actually clean up the mess you made, and that's not fun for anybody. So these ones, they come with a nice, compressive, soft, almost cushioning and welcoming style of styrofoam, which leaves these, number one, in great condition, and number two, allows for easy access to get these out. So these ship very similarly otherwise to the other dumbbells, meaning that you get one dumbbell per box. So when you order a pair of dumbbells, surprise, you get 2 boxes. On the inside, what you find is a cradle. This cradle looks very similar to other cradles, but this cradle is much more heavy duty. It almost feels and looks like a cast iron cradle. So you may have recalled, you sleuths out there on my Trulap video pointed out that my cradle was cracked. This cradle will not crack, but it might crack you. So it is very well built and very sturdy, which kind of echoes the rest of the construction of these Snodes. So you get the cradle, you get 2 sets of weight for either side of the dumbbell, and you get the dumbbell handle, which includes the actual adjusting device. From there, building these out super simple. You put the cradle where it's going to lie, and I will take this time to say that if you're getting this dumbbell or any of the other adjustables I mentioned, I would suggest looking into purchasing the actual stand that comes with these, are offered for a little bit of an extra fee, or just have a plan in place somewhere where you can put these, which is going to be roughly around hip height, maybe a little bit lower, because that's going to make accessing these and changing them and getting them in and into the cradle more and more convenient for you, which is the point of having dumbbells in this setup, the convenience factor. If you keep these on the floor like I have right now, because I do not have the stand that comes with these, it is a little bit of an inconvenience, and you're diminishing the impact that these can have. But you put the cradle where they're going to lie. It comes with instructions that tell you to put the end plates in first. The end plates actually connect to the base of the cradle itself, or at least they're held there, which means the plates are always going to stay in the same place when you're taking the handle in and out, depending on how much weight you have. Obviously, if it's loaded up to the max amount, which are 80 pounds on these dumbbells, all the plates will come out, and when you seat it back down, those would seat back into the cradle. If you're doing anything under 80 pounds, it's going to seat into whatever weights are there, but those weights are then connected to the end plates in some form of fashion. And again, it's going to make racking, unracking all the much more easy. Now, the instructions tell you to put in plate by plate past that, and they're labeled in order, so you can put them in and you work your way in. And once you have both plate stacks in, you put the handle in. I, my friends, am not one who likes to be told what to do and or read instructions for the most part, especially when it comes to something as simple as these. So you don't need to read the instructions to put them together. You can figure it out on your own, I'm sure. Instead, what I did is I grabbed the whole stack of plates, almost like you would a vintage roundhead blob, put them in place, and just put the handle in, and it worked a little bit sooner, and I felt more accomplished because I'm a man and I don't read instructions. So putting these together couldn't be much more easy. But again, that's kind of similar to all the other dumbbells in this segment. They're all very similar in that aspect, with the cradle, the plates that slide in, and the handle going in at the last portion. But again, putting them together was just easier of an experience than the other dumbbells I've already mentioned past that point. Now, I mentioned that the cradle itself is very sturdy, very heavy duty. Again, that echoes throughout the course of this dumbbell. Out of all three of these dumbbells, this has the least amount of plastic. So you have the cast iron plates, you have this kind of chrome steel handle, if you will. The handle is nice and girthy, very similar feeling to the others in terms of the diameter. However, what you might notice on this particular set of dumbbells is the adjustment is not built into the handle itself. So the other dumbbells, you would just kind of turn the handle. In this case, you have a fixed handle. I actually like the feeling of it better, and you have an adjustment wheel on one side of the dumbbell and a little window that tells you how much weight is on there. So everything is metal, with the exception of maybe this adjustment wheel and some of the internals, that is nylon. The actual rod system used in this model is aluminum, so metal, where other ones might not necessarily use the same component. So overall, I would say the construction of this is probably 90% metal, which is great, especially when you take a look at the warranty of these. So that's a common question that comes up with these adjustable dumbbells. Can you drop them, and what's covered under warranty? If we took a look at the Trulap dumbbells, linked in the description box below, they cover one accidental drop. So they're not supposed to be dropped, but if you mess up and drop it, you'll be covered one time under warranty. Nuobell say do not drop them, so you're out of luck and warranty. If they can figure out that you dropped them, then they will not usually honor that. With these Snodes, they actually say that they are covered under warranty for drops for 2 years. So you can drop these. They are under warranty for 2 years. And if I read the website correctly, you actually have the opportunity to expand that warranty to a 3 or 4 year warranty for an additional fee. So that is probably getting a lot of your attention right now, all things considered. So overall, these dumbbells are really solid in terms of what they are. You adjust the weights, you put them in, you put them out, a very small footprint. Again, as affordable as the other options that you're probably looking at. However, as I've already mentioned, none of these dumbbells are perfect. So these do have their drawbacks, in my opinion. Number one, first and foremost, the biggest drawback of these is in dealing with the adjustability on a couple of fronts. Number one, the increments here, although it goes from 10 to 80 pounds, you're stuck with 10-pound jumps as is. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. In case you couldn't do that in your own head, you're welcome. That's what you're dealing with just the base set of dumbbells. So if we compare that to something like the Nuobells, those also go up to 80 pounds, but those are done in increments of 5 through the actual handle adjustment. So you get some standard numbers and standard jumps, and you have basically twice the amount of sets as you do with these Snodes. Now, if we take a look at the Trulap dumbbells, which are also a handle adjustment style, you actually have even more adjustability as those go all the way up to around 92 pounds. The downside and drawback of that, however, though, is it's not in standard jumps. It's like 3 to 3.5 pound jumps. So it's like 8.5 pounds, 12 pounds, 15.5 pounds, 18 pounds, whatever the math may be. That is not correct. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comment section below. But although they're adjustable, it's not a nice adjustability in the fact that most of us like those 5-pound increment jumps. Now, Snode does have a solution for this. However, the solution is also a drawback in my opinion. So let's say you really like these because of their robustness and how little plastic they have, and you want to get the 5-pound adjustments, you can buy magnets through Snode that'll allow you to do that. Now, the reason why I think that actually does these dumbbells a disservice is because let's say we want to do, let's adjust these to a good number, let's say 35. 35 is a great number and a great number for plates especially. Let's say you want to do 35 pounds. You have to adjust the wheel to 30. Obviously, if you go one step higher, it's 40, you lose, kind of like Price is Right. If you're over, you lose. You go to 30 pounds. In order to get 35s, you have to, number one, buy the magnets as an additional add-on, which a lot of people don't like to have to pay add-on fees. But then you have to take the dumbbell out of the cradle. And when we take a look at the dumbbell itself, normally has a very flat face with the exception of a small protrusion up here, which is how the plates connect in addition to the rods as well. These plates as standard are actually quite comfortable to rest on your knee, your shoulder, your body. There's nothing that's going to protrude or stab you, which we want to avoid at all costs when doing most things in life. But then you have to add magnets onto this. So a couple of problems with that. Number one, you have to take the dumbbell out of the cradle and place it somewhere. If you have the stand, which I recommended already through Snode, there's no loading zone, if you will. So you got to find another place to place these while you put the magnets on. But then you also lose this flat surface and you have to deal with magnets on them. So you're now resting the magnets potentially on your knees, as well as when you're dropping these dumbbells, which of course you'll do because it's covered under warranty, you have to deal with the fact that these will probably not always stay on. Case in point, as I mentioned earlier, Home Gym Hacks and Reviews actually got the magnets with his set. He kind of details, putting these on your knees, on your thighs, and dropping them. And even with what I would consider a gingerly drop, his magnets came off and moved around some, so it's really inconvenient, especially when you're then done. You're going to have to take the magnets off, you take it back, and you place it in the cradle. So the whole racking and unracking of the cradle is not a problem when using the standard jumps on here, but when you're dealing with the magnets, again, it's a little bit annoying. Speaking of the adjustability, I stated already that I actually like the fixed handle feel a little bit more. I'm not worried that it's accidentally going to roll or click or it's one less thing to break. The problem is this adjustment wheel on the side, while in theory I think is a good idea, in application, the whole dumbbell as a whole, strong English, strong dumbbells, it feels like a very premium piece of equipment until you get to this adjustability lever and it just feels like cheap plastic. In some of my other videos, I kind of made fun of like, hey, it's really satisfying to get that click when you're adjusting the handle, especially when you're going from the lighter load to the heavier load. Using this kind of just makes me feel like this is a cheap piece. And I don't like that because otherwise you get a very premium feeling piece of equipment. So I just don't like the application here. Also, speaking of the handle, because like the other ones we've already mentioned, the adjustability is built into the handle itself. You don't have much wiggle room. That looks dirty. You don't have much wiggle room on this handle in terms of length. So why this is important is I've mentioned magnets being added here to get those 5-pound jumps. Some might question of, hey, can I use those microgreens add-on plates, which you can use on a fixed dumbbell in order to get smaller increment jumps? In this case, there's literally no room to do so because you're sacrificing some of the real estate to the adjustability here within the handle. So again, a little bit of a knock. So that is my feedback on these Snodes. Again, let's kind of briefly recap it. I think if you're in the market for something like this in this segment and are considering the Snode, the Trulap, or the Nuobells, you would choose the Snode if you want the most robust dumbbell. So most metal, least amount of plastic, best warranty, ones that actually cover droppage. The Snodes are for you as long as you're willing to sacrifice the adjustability or deal with the hassle that is the magnets. Now, when would you consider something like the Nuobells? The Nuobells have a very similar design. The main differences being is that they actually adjust via the handle and they have a very similar plate shape, but they have plastic pieces in between and they are said to not be dropped. Those are good if you want a standard set of dumbbells up to 80 pounds that are adjustable in the handle at 5-pound increments, but you're probably going to have to be a little bit more careful with them because they're more likely to break due to droppage or just general use because there is more plastic in them. Finally, the Trulap dumbbells, which I've already talked about before, which have a lot of metal. The downside for those, the biggest drawback in my opinion, is the plates are so small, it adds to a lot of noise within the system. And also the adjustability of those plates give you some really weird numbers. Now, the bright side is they're the heaviest dumbbells, going up to about 92 pounds, but it's in 3-pound jumps. So as long as you're willing to kind of sacrifice the normal jumps of, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and do stuff like 22, 25, 27, 30, 33, 36, those might be a good option as well. The only last thing I want to talk about with these Snodes and these plates as I'm talking about it and thinking about it, the only other thing I wanted to cover, because I know some people have asked about it, is when these things are loaded up, even though there's very minimal plastic in this setup and on the plates, there's really no plastic whatsoever. Because of the weight and the way these connect, even though there's not a ton of space, you still do get a little bit of noise on these, which again, isn't overly prominent unless you're really kind of overdoing it a little bit, which we tend to do. But when you lift these out of the cradle or when you're lifting these up, you do get a little bit of what I call plate sag. So there is a little bit of tension here that you need to be pulled out. Almost like if you're pulling the slack out of a deadlift bar, there is some pull here before the actual dumbbells will release, because all the plates and the way that they're connected, there's a little bit of movement, but over the extended period of an 80-pound dumbbell, you do get more slop or more sag. You need to pull it out a little bit more careful. Now, using this, you're not going to really notice too much of that, but it does lead to a little bit of noise. You might notice a little bit of movement if you're doing some really forceful movement with 80 pounds. But again, these still are the most robust ones on the market, as long as you're willing to sacrifice some of the other adjustability features that the others have. But like I said, there's no perfect solution here just yet. In a perfect world, we take things from each 3 of these dumbbells and they'd make the perfect adjustable. I'm sure someone's out there making it, and I'm sure a lot of people are just going to slap their name on it and resell it. But that is the Snode AD80s. Let me know what questions or comments, concerns you have about these in the comment section below. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.